Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Trev and Lev show right here on YouTube.com, where we're talking SEC, Tennessee, and everything CFP. I'm Trev, he's Lev, and today we're talking about SEC and everything CFP. That's right, it was the week 8 in college football. Great week of games, a lot of big upsets, a lot of ranked teams fell, as well as two top 10 teams. Getting into this one right here, one of these top 10 teams that lost was LSU. LSU and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt at home takes the win 31-24. They were favored in this game. Haven't been favored in an SEC game in a long time. They look like the better team, in my opinion, too, and they really dominated the lines of scrimmage in this one. Pavia, as much as he is cringe and corny, like he backs up a lot of his talk. He only passed for 160 yards, but he made big throws when he had to. And I feel like with his legs is where he really came in clutch for them. Uh, They had their way the whole game, and I was really high on LSU's defense coming in, but uh, they looked pretty average against this Vanderbilt offense, and Vanderbilt has had little issues scoring against most of the teams that they play on their schedule so far this season. And then Vanderbilt's defense made the plays when they had to win the game. Nussmeier had probably one of his better games of the season. But if you look here, like LSU only ran for 100 yards. They just don't have a run game to help them out at all.
hmm
It really only took a couple stops for Vanderbilt, and the game was just over. So yeah, I mean, huge win for Vandy as they continue to climb in the SEC standings.
Yeah.
And with LSU, you're kind of left wondering, like, they might finish 7-5.
Yeah, I mean, who do they have left on their schedule? They did they play Bama?
I can look at that real quick.
I
But
think
yeah, I mean,
going into that, LSU has just been kind of after beating Clemson, they've kind of been a subpar team that's just won games. So they've won most of their games, but they've lost to the best two teams they've played since then.
they haven't
Um,
looked good in the games they've won.
yeah, they've just been a very mediocre team. Their offense is just not good. Defensively, they've been good, but they couldn't stop Vanderbilt enough to win the game. So I kind of agree. I don't know if they'll go 7-5. I'd have to see their schedule, but they're not winning out. I
Yeah,
don't
you
see
want to.
that
So
happening.
they played Texas A&M at home,
That's
on the road
probably a
against Bama,
loss. Yeah, that's a loss.
at home against Arkansas. Could be a loss.
That could be Arkansas. I think a lot of people wrote Arkansas off, but I think that could be a loss.
They play at home against Western Kentucky. There's a win for sure. And then on the road to end the year against Oklahoma. I think they're going 7-5.
I think I agree. I think their best bets are probably, uh, of course, that easy win against Western Carolina, or was it Western Carolina? Is that what you said?
Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky, and I think beating Arkansas is likely. I think Arkansas could win that game, and then an Oklahoma game. The only reason I say that it's a possible win is just because I think Oklahoma could be pretty beat up by the time they play them.
They're
But
kind of similar teams too, right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Oklahoma's defense is definitely better, but their offenses are pretty similar.
But I
And
think
then
I
and we'll kind of be talking at the end of this video, coaching carousel. Brian Kelly,
yeah. This is a top job. LSU is a top job. So
is he on the hot seat or does he leave? Our thoughts near the end of this one. Kind of moving on here, we got Ole Miss and Georgia. One of the best games of the weekend. Um, the only punts in the game, the first punt of the game was in the fourth quarter, which is insane. This is this is a back and forth game, kind of similar to the Tennessee one as far as neither offense was able to be was stopped. Um, you see there though, Levi, box score, fourth quarter. Ole Miss, 0 points. 0 points in the fourth quarter. I believe they punted twice. Um, and I think they turned it over on downs. Yeah, they turned it over on downs. They had one total yard in the fourth quarter. Georgia with a complete shutdown at the end of that one. I was really impressed with the way that Ole Miss came out of this came out right, firing. Trinidad Chambliss, I think, had a really solid day. And I was also impressed with Lane Kiffin because a lot of times in these games they don't perform well, but then but then at the end, like the Georgia defense just got the stops that they needed to, and it was over. Like Georgia defense eventually adjusted, and Ole Miss is just never did. This is just kind of a classic Ole Miss game of offense is really good, plays really well, and then the defense is unable to get any sort of stops to help out the offense. Uh,
Well, I think the interesting thing too is this Georgia team is so much different than past Georgia teams under Kirby Smart. They're finding ways to win games outside of that Alabama loss, but they are letting teams score on them. This is not
yeah,
a this is not an elite Georgia defense. They're a defense that gets the job done at the end when they need to, but they're letting teams score on them. I mean, this Ole Miss game, they let Ole Miss score 35 points. That's not something that really happened much in the last few years under Kirby. And they let Tennessee
yeah,
score 40, uh, 41 points. Was
40,
that
yep,
41 points? So it's just,
41.
it's one of those things where it's like this Georgia defense is not elite. And so I think they could lose another game. This was definitely the most likely loss on their season, but I don't think they're invincible. I think both these teams are pretty good, but I don't think either are elite.
Yeah, I mean, one more take that I have from this one is I actually thought the Ole Miss was the better team for the majority of the game, and I was also really impressed with Ole Miss. Like to kind of back up that point, I was kind of low on them. I thought that they had not played a tough schedule and that that they were a little bit fraudulent. Coming out of this one though, I think that they have a solid chance to make the SEC championship and the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Kind of going to the next one, we got Florida Mississippi State up right here. Uh, Florida has to overcome two DJ Lagway interceptions to win this one. Kind of an interesting game because Florida dominated. They just were never able to pull away. Um, so that kind of came back to hurt them because at the end of the game they're up 20-7 after Mississippi State couldn't do anything until the fourth quarter. Mississippi State scores two quick touchdowns. Um, and Florida also scored a touchdown in there to get up 23-21. Mississippi State gets the ball back near the end of this game, drives down the field, and they're in field goal range with 20 seconds to play. And Shapen throws an interception to a defensive lineman to lose this one. Florida should have lost this game, and they didn't play. I don't think that they played well enough to win necessarily. I mean, they made a lot of mistakes. They didn't really seem to want to win this one. Um, but Mississippi State with a dumb mistake at the end. DJ Lagway obviously costing his team time and time again this season. He's thrown a lot of interceptions, and as we know now, it wasn't enough to keep Billy Napier around. He was fired Sunday afternoon. So yeah, your thoughts kind of on this
Just two
on this sports?
teams. I
Yeah, I
think
mean, kind of like yeah, I mean, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I mean these are just two teams that both are not where they both want to be. I mean, Mississippi State is better than what a lot of people thought, but they also would like to win an SEC game, and they really
Mm.
felt like they could here. They couldn't get it done. I just think, I do think though that I think this is confidence for Mississippi State that there are still. I think their coach is doing a better job, but he's just got to get his guys in and give him time. But Florida just interesting to see firing their coach after a win. I mean, it was coming either way. I mean, he was gonna get fired, but it's interesting to see it. This is when it's coming, not after a loss, that they let him coach this game, even though they knew they were gonna fire him before the game. Is really interesting. But I also just it's interesting to see. I'm intrigued to see how Florida goes from here. Um, if the coaching change makes a difference, if they get worse, I don't know. I don't really know how it's gonna affect them. You've seen a lot of teams who have fired their coaches have a better
Have gotten
season
better.
going forward. I don't know if that'll be the case for Florida. It really comes down to the interim coach, um,
Mm-hmm.
because it's probably somebody on the staff right now, and I don't know. I think, I don't know if there's really a great coach on their staff to be the interim. I don't know. They might have already announced who the interim head coach is. I don't know who it is, but we'll see. They have a tough schedule going forward, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, kind of on the Mississippi State side, right? Before we move on here, I almost kind of wonder they've lost what 15. I just looked it up. It's 15 SEC games in a row, um,
That's bad.
including this loss at Florida. I kind of just wonder if it's just kind of like history is not on their side right now, and I I think they've been good enough to win a couple of these games. They were good enough to beat Tennessee. They were good enough to beat Florida here, but you know, when your team is historically the past 3 or 4 seasons not good, it's hard to overcome that, right? So we got Texas and Kentucky next year. Speaking of a bad team, Kentucky makes it a game here, loses in overtime, 16-13. Texas somehow pulls this one off, outgained almost double right here, 395 to 179 yards. Kentucky played keep away, almost nearly 40 minutes of possession. And Texas kind of played that bend don't break defense, but Cutter Boley, Kentucky's quarterback, was able to kind of keep drives alive, and he kind of had the game of his life right here against Texas. And I think mostly it was just a bad spot for Texas, kind of coming off that Oklahoma win, the emotional rivalry win. You have to go on the road and play a pretty a Kentucky team that plays really well at night in their home stadium. Weird things happen. Uh, I guess good on Texas for surviving this one, but I I don't know. It doesn't really change my opinion on Kentucky at all, and it I honestly don't think it really changes my opinion on Texas. We knew these things coming into this game. We knew their defense was good, and we knew their offense was horrible, and we know their offensive line is one of the worst in the SEC. And Arch Manning can't make all the plays by himself because they don't have a run game either. Only were able to rush for 47 yards. It is really a miracle that they came out, 8 first downs, Levi. 8 first downs on the game,
Wild.
and they win in overtime.
I don't know what's crazier
Insane.
that I don't know what's crazier. The fact that Texas only had 8 first downs and won this game, or the fact that Kentucky had like everything, like not just better stats offensively than Texas, but just way better stats than Texas offensively, but they
Doubled them up.
still lose. They doubled them
Yeah.
up on most every stat,
Yeah.
if not more. Like they had 26 first downs compared to their 8, the 40, almost 40 minutes time possession compared to 20 minutes.
Hmm.
That's crazy. It just seems like they couldn't get it done. It seems like they were able to keep the ball, but they couldn't finish the drives. I think that could be something similar that happens when they play Tennessee, but I think Tennessee's going to be able to score because I think Tennessee has a better offense than Texas, personally.
Yeah. I mean,
And so I think that's where it gets different.
I'm pretty sure that interception by Bully was detrimental. Either Texas scored a field goal or a touchdown on a short field. I think kind of without the interception, they might have won this game. Just kind of how it was going. Texas can't get in a rhythm. They haven't been in a rhythm all season. Um, and it was just a weird college football game. Sometimes these kind of games just happen, and it was just a weird night in Lexington, and they can't get it done in the end though. Uh, yeah. So moving on, we got Miami and Louisville. Mario Cristobal pulls a Mario Cristobal special, loses at home to an unranked opponent, 24-21. This game's actually a lot closer than it should have been. Carson Beck sold this game hard. 4 interceptions, kind of something similar to where we saw with him last year at Georgia. So crazy stat from this game. Um, Carson Beck throws the 4 interceptions, right? Louisville has 0 points off of the turnovers. 0 points off of turnovers,
That's crazy.
and they win the
Uh,
game.
that's
That's what I'm saying.
insane.
They should have won by a lot more. Yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
a win's a win though. So
This Miami defense is still really good. Jeff Brom is one of the best offensive minds in the country. Um, that Louisville was coming off of a bye, and they had plenty of time to scheme up. Uh, and they got a veteran quarterback. I was really impressed with their playmakers personally, because I've watched a little bit of Louisville. I haven't watched a lot of Louisville this year. I watched this game and I was really impressed. I think it's Isaac Brown is the running back. He was coming off an injury. He made a lot of big plays. Chris Bell, their wide receiver, really good. He tore up this Miami secondary. Um, I think my biggest takeaway from this game was the Miami lines of scrimmage, which I had been really high on, and the main reason why I thought they were the second best team in the country. Um, they looked ordinary in this game, and they hadn't played anyone that made. They had not played a team that made their lines of scrimmage look ordinary, but Louisville was able to do that. I think that they blocked Miami pretty well. They were kind of able to scheme some plays open away from Ruben Bain, which is Miami's big defensive lineman. We're like that. I think he's the #1 overall draft prospect right now. They were able to scheme away from him, but the big thing was like they were able to put pressure on Carson Beck. They never got home, 0 sacks on the day, but they were all 4 of those interceptions were forced from pressure. So and we saw that at Georgia, right? He had a good offensive line 2 years ago, not a good offensive line last season. Throws a lot of interceptions last season. This game throws a lot of interceptions under pressure. He just can't handle it well. And I I would say that he cost them the game, but obviously they didn't score off of it. He
I,
did he did cost them the game though. I
I
mean that's
will
fourth and
say, I mean, and one of those interceptions at the end of the game when they're down three.
right. It was a game losing interception.
Yeah. So I mean,
And
he cost them the game.
no, he did. He did. It just should have been a lot. It shouldn't have been this close. But good on Louisville for getting a big win, and
And they're
they're
at
nearly.
5-1 too. So
Yep.
playoffs is still very alive for them. I think
Hmm.
ACC only gets one playoff team though, but any
Yep.
team that's only got one loss in the ACC is alive for the playoffs because you win
They
the
got to win.
ACC championship, you're in the playoffs. So I think
Yeah, that's kind of the last of our like big breakdowns, but we got rapid fire here. Going to go through these really quickly. Texas A&M, Arkansas. Um, really impressed with Taylor Green, and my takeaway from this game is I think he's the second best quarterback in the SEC
on a really bad team,
on a really bad team.
and you hate
Uh,
that for Taylor Green because you feel like if he was on a different roster, he would be
yeah,
getting love and attention. But I think NFL scouts are going to be able to see that, and I think he'll find himself on a good NFL or on an NFL team and maybe be able to prove himself the next
his
level.
mobility, his mobility is really good, but also he can throw. He can like a lot of these quarterbacks you see like really mobile quarterbacks can't really throw that well. He's like really complete. I think he's improved a lot even from last season. I was really impressed that they were able to keep it this close. Um, because there's multiple times where A&M's kind of like trying to pull away. They could just never do it. Petrino's still hunting for that big win. I think he gets it at some point this season. Oklahoma, South Carolina. Oklahoma wins 26-7. South Carolina is horrible. Like horrible. And kind of what OU did in this game was they kind of just pounced on them early. They were up 14-0 before South Carolina scored their first touchdown. Napier had a bad game. Not really a bad game. They just kind of didn't ask a whole lot of them. They haven't been able to run the ball all season. They found the run game here against South Carolina. I kind of think that thumb for Napier is actually more injured than I thought it was. I think they were kind of just okay with running the ball and it finally working and just sitting on this lead and not trying to do anything with it because they didn't even win by 20 points. But trust me when I say they crushed South Carolina in this one. We got Auburn and Missouri. Biggest thing from this game is I think this is it for Hugh Freeze. We'll kind of get into that a little bit later. Uh, Neither team wanted to win this game. Um, I didn't catch a whole lot of it, but both teams I think missed a field goal in overtime to make it go to second overtime. And I really think this Auburn team with a different quarterback is probably 2-2 in the SEC instead of 0-4. It's like how many one-score games can you lose? And
Yeah.
Auburn just loses all of them. So,
Yeah.
and it for me, this game doesn't really change my perspective on Missouri. I know Auburn's not good or whatever, but I think Missouri's still a solid football team. I don't think that they're elite,
Yeah, I
but
think they're
I
just
think
coming off of a tough loss and just
yeah,
kind of playing sluggish after that.
it's still a good win on the road. I mean, Auburn's not as bad as their record is, so I think it's still a good win on the road for
Yeah,
them.
I agree.
So yeah, that was kind of it on our week 8 reactions there. Really, really fun week of football. Now we're kind of getting into a couple more topics here. Vanderbilt's sitting at 6-1. Um, I think that they're a legit SEC contender, and that's not something I thought I would ever say, but I think that they've got it all out in front of them. And looking at the schedule here, kind of your thoughts on their final record and your thoughts on them being a legit SEC and playoff contender.
I think looking at their schedule, they have 3 games that are really going to define the rest of their season. Um, just going into this, them being at 1 loss right now is very impressive. I will say they don't they don't really have a tough schedule right now. I I I get that they've beat number 11 South Carolina, who's clearly never was the number 11 team in the country. So that's a good win, but it's not a good team, if we're being honest. And then they beat Georgia State, Utah State, Virginia Tech, Charleston Southern. All teams that are not great. But still, Vanderbilt doesn't win those games normally. They choke a lot of these games. So being at that point, really good. The Alabama loss is tough. They played a decent game against Bama, not good enough to win. And then they have a great game this week. So if I was a Vanderbilt fan, I would feel as good as I've ever felt in my life.
Hmm.
Um, they've just right now they've had a better season than most people thought. I mean, a lot of people thought they'd have a good season, but I mean, they beat Alabama, LSU, and South Carolina. Or they didn't beat Alabama. They beat LSU and South Carolina. Um, so it's very impressive. I don't think LSU and South Carolina are world beater teams though. So I'm intrigued to see how they play against Missouri upcoming or in their next game.
Hmm.
Because I think Missouri's a good team and it's at home, so they have that benefit. Um, but it's going to be a good game to watch. And then Texas as well. I think that could be a good game. I think Vanderbilt's the better team, but it's at Texas, and I don't know. I think Texas could win that game, or Vanderbilt could, and then I think Bam or Vandy beats Auburn and Kentucky, and I think they lose to Tennessee. So my personal opinion is I personally think they're gonna drop 2 out of 3 of those big three games. I'm not sure which ones, but I do see there's a world where they could win all of them. So my final prediction for them is 9-3, which is a really good finish for Vanderbilt. But I think that's where I think they're heading. But I could see them winning out and going 11-1 or getting only one more loss as well.
My argument here is I think that they're playing better than every single team left on their schedule.
Yeah,
What would you say about that?
I agree, but I
That
don't think
doesn't
that's going to be the same when they play them. I think right now at
matter.
this point in the season,
Right now at this
they're
point, they are
playing.
better than every single one of their teams left on their schedule.
Yeah, but I just personally think by the time they play them or next week, and I think the two losses, my personal thoughts is Tennessee and Missouri right now. I think I
I can
think
see that.
I think
Definitely think
I think
they are
they
definitely go ahead.
I think they beat Texas honestly. Just because I'm not impressed with Texas at all offensively. I just think
Yeah, I think
Vanderbilt
the
has enough
offense
to beat
is
them.
good enough to score points on Texas. So I could definitely see that. I would kind of tend to agree with you. I think there's a good shot that they lose this weekend. Kind of come off an emotional victory. Um, but man, I mean there is a world where they finish this thing out 11-1. I don't think it's likely, but I do think Tennessee is going to have their hands full at the end of the season, and that worries me.
We'll be at that game too.
I'll be at that game, so there will be content for that game. Uh, kind of moving on here, we got a weird situation going on right now in the ACC. Uh, my thoughts were kind of like we got Georgia Tech at the top of the conference. So, Levi, you haven't seen the ACC standings, right?
Um, I mean I know Georgia Tech's at the top, and then
Okay.
you have Louisville, teams like Louisville, Miami,
What are
close
your guess?
behind.
What are your guess of the top three teams in the ACC are right now?
I mean Georgia Tech, um, Miami, and Louisville would be my guesses.
So the current standings are Georgia Tech, Virginia, and SMU. Those are your
Okay, I guess
un.
that makes sense because those losses are not
Ah,
are two
yeah.
ACC teams. Yeah.
The ACC is a mess. The ACC is a mess right now. Um, Georgia Tech stands at the top. My thought is, I think that they're fraudulent. Um,
Georgia Tech.
yes, but I think they will be undefeated heading into that Georgia game, and there's a good chance they win against Georgia. I think it's at home.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, wait, you had the schedule, right?
Oh
Sorry, I
yeah, I
think
can
I
go
missed.
back. I can go back.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, at home. Oh yeah. I think their biggest two tests are Pittsburgh, who is playing really well right now. They're actually fourth in the conference, and Georgia. Um, they're kind of one of those teams. It's like they struggle against lesser competition. They played really well against tough competition. This year, besides that Wake Forest game, they've kind of handled business. And it's been pretty impressive. I really like Haynes King. I really am a fan of Brent Key, their head coach. But man, it's just a crazy world we live in right now, where Georgia Tech is the top of the ACC. The top 10, the top three teams of the ACC are nowhere near the top spenders of the conference, right? You got the top spender of the conference in Florida State, 0-4, tied for last place right here at the conference standings. Just crazy.
And then Miami, the top team, is at 1-1 in conference
Yep.
standing. And I think it goes to show you it's goofy because SMU's 3-0 in conference, but they've lost a game. They've lost 2 games not in conference.
Hmm.
So it just shows you that the ACC is just not a great conference this year. Um, I honestly think, even though Louisville's lost a game, I think they're better than a lot of the teams that are above them in the conference standings. I mean, same thing with Miami.
Kind of argue
Uh,
that Louisville's the best team in the conference.
yeah, and then you have a team like Virginia who's
They almost
weirdly
lost.
playing good. What?
They almost lost to Washington State. Did you see that?
No, Washington State
Guess how
having two
guess how they won.
back-to-back close wins or close losses.
They Virginia gets a safety to win the game.
That's crazy.
It's insane. But like, it kind of goes to my point here. What I was getting ready to bring up is the Big 12 and the ACC had horrendous weekends. Um, Big 12, like your team, you Texas Tech Red Raiders right here, lose to Arizona State on the road. D- I- If you're the Big 12, you wanted Tech to win out because if Tech wins out and goes 13-0, including that conference championship win, you're looking at a potential bye for Texas Tech. But with these losses in these conferences this week, Tech with that loss, Miami with that loss, best case scenario, if you're Big 12 and ACC, those are your two teams that you want to be your conference champion, right?
Championship. Yeah.
You want Miami to be your conference champion because if they're not, they're not getting in the playoff. Same
No.
thing with Tech. Tech is the best team in the Big 12, talent from a talent standpoint. If they don't win their conference championship, they're not in the playoff either.
Yeah.
I think with the losses this weekend, in my opinion, both these teams will not get a first round bye. I think they'll go to I think it'll go to the Big Ten and SEC. I think they'll both get two first round byes each. And I think in my opinion, I think it's pretty safe to assume both these conferences are first round exits.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
I mean, the neither conference is very impressive right now. I mean, both the two teams that everyone was like the darlings for both conferences have a loss this weekend and just look very beatable. And just, I mean, Miami, for example, everyone was like, Miami's an elite team. They're like the best. People were really high on Miami, and then you see them.
I
They
was. I
don't.
mean, yeah.
They don't. They look like a. They look like everybody else. I think that's just this season is one of those seasons. It just might just be what college football is now. Is elite teams are few and far between. There are not. I I I am not confident in saying there are any elite teams this year. I know there are a lot of people who are like Ohio State's the elite team or so and so is the elite team. I'm not going to say that. I don't think Ohio State's the elite team. I don't think uh, Indiana's the elite team. I don't think Miami's the elite team. I don't think Alabama, Georgia. I think all these teams have problems. Every team in the country has problems, but these conferences, specifically the ACC and the Big 12, their two best their two best teams who, yeah, they might have problems, but they shouldn't have enough problems where they're losing to. They have easy schedules playing in these conferences because the rest of their conference is not great, and yet they still lose games.
Mhm.
It just doesn't
Yeah, I
bode well
mean,
for those conferences.
like if yeah, I mean,
It doesn't help people respect those conferences.
no, I mean, and if you're the conference, like if you're the what commissioner, right? I mean, like Greg Sankey's the SEC commissioner, or
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, if you're the ACC and Big 12 commissioner, you got to be upset right now because I mean, you don't you don't want BYU to represent your conference in the college football playoff. You just don't. You don't want Georgia Tech to represent the ACC in the college football playoff. You want Miami and you want Texas Tech. And that's why I think it's such a bad weekend for both these conferences because I think you just confirmed you're not getting two teams in.
yeah,
If you were dreaming of that, you're not getting two teams in. I think the SEC and Big Ten are too stacked this year. Your best chance was both these teams go undefeated and you know Georgia Tech and Miami play in the championship game, both undefeated, or Georgia Tech with one loss, and maybe Georgia Tech wins. You get both teams in. They're not getting two teams in, and I think as far as like as a financial standpoint, that is not good for these conferences. And I think he kind of proved to the this weekend to the whole country these teams will be a first round exit. I don't think it'll be. They're not going to be competitive in the playoff this season.
I agree.
So kind of heading into wrapping up the show, we got the coaching carousel. I wanted to jump in here. Obviously, Billy Napier getting fired on Sunday. The Florida job opens. What do we got here? We got the Florida job, Penn State, Arkansas. What are some other big schools here?
Um,
Those are the big ones.
This big ones. There's a lot that could open up as the season goes on as well for multiple reasons. A, coach leaves to go coach somewhere else, or B,
Yeah. Mhm.
coach gets fired. Um,
And what are those teams? What you got? LSU.
LSU's one. I
Or,
think South Carolina could be one for actually, funny enough,
mm,
two different reasons. I think there's a world where Virginia Tech tries to hire Beamer, and there's a world where
mhm.
South
Yeah.
Carolina wants to fire him. So
Yeah.
that's one. Kentucky,
I
I don't
kind
know
of
what's going to go
yeah.
on with Kentucky either.
Mm.
I think that's one.
Auburn. I think Auburn's a for sure
Yeah,
one.
Auburn's very likely. It's easier for
Um.
me to think of SEC teams.
So the only other one I can think of right now, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Florida State.
Yeah,
Mike Norvell. Did you see that loss that they had on Saturday?
I did not, but I know they're 0-4 in the
They
last four
traveled
games.
to Stanford and lost 20-13 in that game. Um, I think he's 0-9 in the last nine conference games. Or wait, 0-9 in the last nine road conference games.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I kind of do you think that they'll end up firing Norvell at Florida State?
I think it's possible. I think the buyout's really tough for them,
Mm,
but he's not going to get it done. He has the one really good
yeah.
season, and then it just falls apart. Um,
Mm.
and it just seems like you feel like he's getting it done after they beat Alabama, but it just goes right back to last year where they're just losing games right and left. So I
I
just
think it's a really sorry. I think it's a really similar thing to Napier, right? Like both recruit really well, or both like have really talented rosters. I don't think Florida State recruits extremely well. I think they get a lot of good portal classes, but it comes down to the coach at that point because you have enough talent on your team, you know?
mm-hmm.
Like very similar, oddly similar situations in the state of Florida down there. Um, let's I truly believe Auburn's going to open and LSU's going to I think Auburn, LSU and South Carolina are going to open. I think Kentucky keeps Stoops because I don't think you're going to do any better. And I think there's a chance Stoops leaves, but
I think they just don't care enough to fire him personally. I mean, I think that's where we're at with Kentucky
yeah,
right
I mean with
now.
basketball, like basketball's our thing. It always will be. But do you want to rank these SEC jobs that we think is let's for we have for sure Arkansas, we have for sure Florida, and those are the two open right now.
Yeah.
I want to include Auburn, LSU, and South Carolina. I want to do these five.
So are we
Your
ranking what we think the best jobs are?
Yeah, what's the best opening?
Are we? You said we're including LSU.
Yeah, I want to include LSU
It's LSU.
because I think that might open. You think LSU is the best one?
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly LSU in my opinion. I think it's between LSU and Florida. I think
I
the
think
pr-
Florida's better.
I think the problem with Florida is I just I think it's been a lot longer since they've had success. I think that's
True.
my main drawback. I think Florida has better talent, like in
Hmm.
state, like the state wise better talent than Louisiana does. But I just think just historically over the last few years, LSU's a better job. and easier to win at. I also think LSU's in a better spot right now than Florida
Yeah, like
is.
Florida has to compete with two other teams in recruiting. And yeah, like you said, like their program's in a lot better state. Florida's program's in a horrible spot.
Because Florida's firing Billy Napier because the program's in a horrible spot. You're firing Brian Kelly because he's mid.
He's not getting it done.
He's just
Yeah,
mid.
exactly.
He's not horrible. He's not like losing every game, but he's also not winning the
He's
big
the classic
games.
8-win coach.
He's like
Yeah.
a Butch Jones boy type of thing. Like
I
he's
think yeah. So I think it's like for me, I think it's Florida, LSU, Auburn, Arkansas, South Carolina.
yeah. So you said Florida, LSU, Auburn,
LSU,
and I,
Arkansas, South Carolina.
and I think those top three jobs are really good jobs. I mean,
Oh yeah.
they're all
They're probably like top
university.
10 jobs in the country.
They're all three universities that have won a national championship in the last
Mhm.
20 years. So
And are historically good.
yeah. So I mean, they really they are very good jobs to go to. I think the problem is all these jobs are opening up. So there's it's going to be harder to find if you're one of these teams. It's going to be harder to find the good coach you want because these other
Yeah.
good jobs are also looking for a coach at the same time.
So
So
yeah, my last question to kind of wrap it up here is James Franklin mentioned on Saturday at College Game Day when he was being interviewed by Nick Saban and the crew that he would like to be get back into coaching quickly. Um, so let's say he is at a school next season. Do you think he goes to one of those five potential SEC schools? Obviously, not all of them are open currently. Which one do you think he ends up at if he ends up at a SEC school?
it's a really tough question because I'm not sure what Franklin wants out of this. Like I know he wants to win a national championship, but the SEC is much harder to win in than the Big Ten.
He came from Vanderbilt. Don't forget about that.
Yes, but I my thing here is he's already had trouble to win the big games. Um, and I think there are a lot more big games in the SEC. So I don't know if he tries to find an easier place to win. Like I think these are
True.
all good jobs, but they're still hard to win at. Like the
Yeah, I mean,
SEC is
especially
just
with
so
these like
hard to win at.
the new 9 game schedules, right?
Yeah.
Do
I
you think he would end up somewhere more like in Oklahoma State?
that's a possibility. I know if he comes to the SEC, he's not going to South Carolina or Arkansas. I know Arkansas fans really want him or have mentioned wanting him. He's not going to Arkansas. I think Arkansas is a good job, but it goes back to the SEC is just really hard to win in. And every single SEC team, even if they are one of the bottom feeders of the SEC, has really high expectations. So it's like these
Yeah,
coaches don't want to
true.
go to a school that has high expectations but is not the premier program in a conference. So I just that wouldn't make any sense to go to a team like that. I think what makes the most sense to me out of all the SEC jobs is probably LSU. Because in
Yeah.
reality, I think LSU has a favorable kind of slate for future SEC compared to some of those other ones.
Yeah.
And I just think LSU might just seem like a better job to him, especially because it's in a better spot than both
Mhm.
Auburn and Florida. So I would say if he's gonna go to an
That's
SEC
true.
job, it's LSU. I could see the UCLA job. Funny enough, I don't know if they would
Yeah.
hire him, but I mean, I could see
Yeah,
him
and
aiming for that one.
you also think that Wisconsin's going to open at some point too this season.
Yeah,
Because Fickle is not lived up to
I think.
Wisconsin, I think probably makes the most sense,
Yeah,
honestly, overall.
I think a
But
Big Ten team does kind of make sense just because,
yeah, because he knows that already. He
and
can start at
he wants to kind of get back at Penn State. I
because
think he would love to
yeah,
go back into the Big Ten
true.
and win at whatever team he goes to and shove it in the
Mhm.
face of the people who fired him at Penn State. I don't think he's gonna, personally. I
Yeah.
just don't think I think he's a good coach. I don't think he is a great or an elite coach.
No, but I think he can rebuild your program, and I kind of think that's what he might be going for. It's kind of like to push back on your LSU thing. I think maybe he would go to a smaller school or like a school that's not in a great spot and kind
I
of
just
try to
don't think he
rebuild
would do
type
that
thing again.
in the SEC. I think the SEC is just
Sure,
too hard to do
I
that.
agree with that, but I could see him doing that in the Big Ten, which is kind of my point about Wisconsin or your point about UCLA. I could see that. I
Yeah,
could see that happening.
I actually I agree with you. I just think if he's doing that, it's not in the SEC because the SEC is not these these other schools in the SEC are going to be really tough to win at. I think it's going
Yeah,
to be something where um, the SEC is just hard to win in at that level. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be harder to get a good coach when you're one of those teams. Personally,
yeah, I think so too. And I guess I do want to talk about one more thing here. Obviously Florida just opened. They fired Napier. Who do you think ends up there? Because do you think that I know a lot of people don't think Kiffin will, but I feel like if I was Florida, I think that would be my number one guy.
I just don't know. I think that's who Florida fans want.
Hmm.
I think the Florida administration is just not good. I think their athletic director is not great. I I don't know if they're the smartest, and
Yeah.
I think Florida's in a very similar situation to Tennessee over the
Yeah.
last whatever however long
But
Tennessee was
do
in.
you go like do you go small school higher again? Because that's what Napier was, right?
I think I think what could
I don't
happen is
think
they
that.
try and get a bunch of big hires and they could get turned down or they get one. I think they're going to
Yeah.
try and get the big name hire or the big time hire. Do they get it though? That's the
I don't
question.
have any I don't have any candidates other than Kiffin.
I mean, you have Golesh is one. I think Golesh is
True.
a candidate in a lot of places. I mean,
So it's like
Franklin will be a candidate. I think they will make the call to James Franklin.
you know
I
how
don't.
funny that would be to go from like a terrible offense to another horrible offense, like the same offense,
Yeah.
basically. That would be that would be something. That would be something. He's a better he's a Napier's not a good coach.
No, I
I
think
think he's a
Napier is really
great
bad.
recruiter.
Yeah, he's
He's
just
a
an
great recruiter.
imbecile though when it comes to being a coach.
Horrible offensive play caller. He should like yeah, he's just not a good coach. I can't believe they kept him that long. You know, I mean, if they're serious, I think he finished 22 and 23. You're serious about your program, then why'd you keep him so long? You know,
Yeah,
I mean, he's just basically Butch Jones, but they kept. I guess they kept him. I think they kept him
he's
longer, and we
Butch
should.
Jones that never had success.
Yeah, but because Butch had success, so yeah, I don't have any candidates for this job. I think Kiffin would be kind of like a home run hire for a lot of schools, though. I think he's really
Yeah,
good,
I don't want
and I
them to
think
hire Golesh. I don't want them. I don't
mhm,
want them to hire Kiffin.
Golish would be a good hire for them too. I just don't think they're going to go small school again. I really don't, and it would be. I honestly don't think they're going to take someone from Tennessee's coaching tree. Can you imagine that?
Would be
Can you imagine
crazy.
a mirror match? Oh man, every
Which we
couple
aren't going to
years.
be playing them every year anymore.
No, but that would be. I don't know.
Yeah, I just hope they make another bad hire. Will they? I don't know. I don't think they have a
You can
good
always hope
athletic
so.
department, but
I think a bad hire would be another small school coach. I think you have to learn your lesson and probably hire someone at a big school that scores a lot of points, and that's Lane Kiffin. So, but yeah, with that, we kind of wrap up the show here. We really appreciate you all tuning in to our week 8 reaction. A lot of different topics we covered in this video. Um, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this one out. We're on the road to 50 subscribers here, and any support is appreciated. But yeah, I'm Trev. He's Lev. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you on the next one.
peace.